Mara sat in the cockpit of her small starship, her hands gripping the controls so tightly that her knuckles had turned white. Lyra, her tiny daughter, slept peacefully in a soft blanket beside her, unaware of the danger that had chased them across half the galaxy. Outside, the stars streaked past in long lines, the result of Mara's careful navigation through hyperspace. Every planet she passed, every system she avoided, was a potential trap, and she knew it. The interstellar Mafia boss, Draxion, was not someone to underestimate. His reach was legendary. He had ships and agents scattered across every known system, always watching, always hunting. And now Mara had something he wanted, something she couldn't let him take. Her daughter. Mara's mind raced as she plotted their next move. She knew Draxion had the resources to find them eventually, but she hoped to buy time. She had studied the star charts, memorized routes that were little known, and even mapped paths through asteroid fields where larger ships couldn't follow. It wasn't just her skill as a pilot keeping them alive. It was her knowledge, her intelligence, and her ability to think one step ahead. She reached over and adjusted the blanket around Lyra. "Sleep tight, little one," she whispered. "Mama's got you." Her voice was soft, but it carried a weight that even a sleeping child could somehow feel. Mara's eyes flicked back to the sensors. A warning light blinked, a faint signal in the distance, one that was familiar, far too familiar. "They're close," she muttered. Her fingers danced over the console, rerouting power to the shields and engines. This wasn't the first time Draxion's agents had tried to catch them. Every close call had taught her something new, sharpened her instincts and strengthened her resolve. But this time felt different. This time they weren't just chasing. They were coming for her, for Lyra, for everything she had worked so hard to protect. Mara activated a secure communication channel. The voice on the other end was calm, but there was an edge to it. The kind of edge that told her she had allies in the shadows. "You can't stay in one place for long," the voice said. "He's tracking more than just the ship. He's tracking you." "I know," Mara replied. Her voice was steady, though her heart pounded. "I've got a plan. I just need a little more time." "You don't have much," the voice warned. "Move fast." With a nod, Mara disengaged the communication and plotted a course for the nearest uncharted system. The coordinates were risky. They would take her through an asteroid belt that few had dared to cross, but she didn't have a choice. Safety meant risk now. Survival meant taking chances. The starship shook as it entered the dense field of spinning rocks. Mara's hands were steady, but her eyes were sharp. Each asteroid had to be avoided precisely. One wrong move could spell disaster. She weaved between the massive stones, her ship's engines roaring in protest. Lyra stirred but didn't wake, a small relief in the tense silence. Hours passed, though in hyperspace hours felt like minutes. Mara's mind never rested. She ran calculations, predicted enemy movements, and imagined every possible scenario. She knew Draxion would adapt, that he would come for them no matter what. But she also knew that humans were resourceful, clever, and unyielding when it came to protecting what mattered most. And she had human courage in every fiber of her being. Finally, the asteroid belt ended, and Mara pushed the engines to maximum speed. Ahead was a small green planet barely noted in any charts, a world untouched and quiet. It was perfect, hidden, safe, or at least she hoped it would be. Landing wasn't easy. The surface was rough, covered in jagged rocks and thick forests. But Mara's skill as a pilot was unmatched. She guided the ship carefully, each movement deliberate, each calculation precise. Finally, with a gentle thud, they touched down. Mara exhaled. "We're here," she said softly. She scooped Lyra into her arms and stepped out of the ship. The air was fresh, different from the recycled oxygen of her starship. Birds, or creatures that looked like birds, flitted through the trees. It was a paradise, a secret haven that seemed like it had been waiting for them. For a brief moment, Mara allowed herself to breathe, to hope. They could rest here, hide, and maybe even start rebuilding a life that hadn't been constantly overshadowed by danger. She set up a small shelter, camouflaged with natural materials from the forest. Every detail mattered. Every precaution mattered, but peace was short-lived. Mara noticed a shimmer on the horizon, a faint light that didn't belong to the planet. Her heart skipped a beat. Draxion's signal. He had found them. Mara grabbed Lyra and ran deeper into the forest, relying on the terrain to mask their presence. She moved quickly, silently, and with purpose. Every step was calculated. Every move was essential. She couldn't afford mistakes. Hours turned into night. The forest became alive with nocturnal sounds. Creatures Mara had never seen before moving around her. She held Lyra close, feeling the warmth of her tiny body against her chest. Mara whispered stories to keep the child calm. Stories of stars and brave humans who never gave up. Stories of hope that even in the darkest times, courage could shine through. Suddenly, a low hum vibrated through the ground. Mara froze. It was a sound she knew too well. The approach of a ship, but not just any ship. A vessel designed for hunting, fast and deadly. Draxion had arrived. Mara didn't panic. Panic was useless. She had trained for moments like this. She led Lyra through hidden paths, using her knowledge of the forest to stay out of sight. Trees blocked the sensors. Rocks provided cover and shadows became their allies. Finally, she reached a small clearing with a stream running through it. The sound of water masked her movements. She paused, catching her breath, her mind racing for the next move. Draxion's ship hovered above, scanning, searching, waiting. Mara's thoughts turned inward. She remembered the first day she held Lyra. The first time she realized that this tiny life depended on her completely. Every plan, every risk, every sleepless night, it had all led to this moment. She would not fail. She could not fail. Hours passed. The ship eventually moved on as if sensing her clever evasion. Mara didn't celebrate. She couldn't. There was still a long journey ahead, and Draxion was patient. He would return. But for now, they were safe. Mara looked down at Lyra, who had finally fallen asleep again. "We're safe for now," she whispered. "Mama will always protect you. No one can take you from me." As she lay beside her child that night, listening to the soft sounds of the forest, Mara realized something. Humans were small, fragile, and often underestimated. But in the face of danger, in the face of enemies like Draxion, humans had a way of surviving, of outthinking, of enduring, and she would use every bit of that resilience to keep Lyra safe. The stars above seemed to shine brighter that night, as if reminding her that hope, courage, and cleverness could light even the darkest paths. And Mara knew deep in her heart that this was only the beginning. The next morning, Mara woke to the soft light of the planet filtering through the trees. Lyra was still asleep in her makeshift cradle, the small bundle of blankets rising and falling gently with her breathing. Mara's eyes scanned the forest carefully, alert to every movement. The brief safety of the night had given her time to rest, but she knew it wouldn't last. Above them, the faint hum of engines broke the quiet. Mara froze, recognizing the sound immediately. Draxion's ship. Sleek, black, and silent in the daylight, it hovered just at the edge of the clearing. It was larger than anything she had ever faced, with sensors that could scan every corner of the forest. He had found them again. Mara's mind raced. She couldn't fight Draxion head-on, his firepower was too great. But she had something he didn't expect: human ingenuity. She quickly packed supplies and carried Lyra into a network of hidden tunnels she had discovered near the stream. The tunnels were narrow, damp, and winding, but they offered cover. More importantly, they led to a small canyon far from the ship's sensors. Draxion's voice crackled through the ship's loudspeaker, cold and commanding. "Mara, you cannot hide forever. Bring me the child and I will spare your life. Both belong to me." Mara's heart pounded, but her resolve only strengthened. "Never," she whispered under her breath. She moved faster, keeping Lyra close, whispering little songs and stories to calm her. Even in the tunnels, Mara could feel Draxion's presence pressing against them like a storm. Hours passed and the ship searched, its sensors sweeping back and forth. Mara used the time to plan. She remembered the small stream that led to a waterfall not far from the canyon. If she could reach it, she could use the sound and terrain to her advantage. Draxion might have technology, but humans could adapt. Humans could fight smart. By evening, Mara and Lyra reached the waterfall. The roar of water masked any sounds they made. Mara carefully set up a small trap, simple, clever human ingenuity at work. She arranged rocks and logs to make the terrain unstable, creating a path that would slow or divert any pursuers. She knew Draxion's enforcers would come eventually. She just had to be ready. As night fell, Draxion's ship descended near the canyon, lights scanning. Mara waited, heart steady, mind sharp. She knew he expected fear. He expected compliance. But humans had a way of surviving, and she intended to prove it. Then a shadow moved in the darkness. Draxion stepped from his ship, flanked by enforcers. He was taller and more imposing than she remembered, but Mara didn't flinch. She carried Lyra closer to the rocks, her eyes never leaving him. "You are clever, Mara," Draxion said, his voice smooth and dangerous. "But cleverness alone cannot save you. Give me the child. Both belong to me." Mara shook her head. "She is mine. I will never let you take her." Her voice was calm but firm, carrying the strength of someone who had no choice but to fight. Draxion smiled slightly, almost intrigued. He gestured to his enforcers, but they didn't move forward. For the first time, Mara realized something. He respected intelligence and courage, something humans had in abundance. She wasn't just running. She was standing her ground, outthinking him. The first attack came from the enforcers. They moved quickly, trying to force her out into the open. Mara acted fast. She triggered the unstable terrain, sending rocks and logs tumbling down the canyon. 2 enforcers were forced to jump aside, losing balance, and the others hesitated. Mara used the moment to climb higher, Lyra in her arms, moving through narrow ledges only she could navigate. Draxion watched silently, not angered, not shocked, just observing. Mara realized then that this wasn't just about strength, it was about proving herself, about showing that humans could face overwhelming odds and survive through cleverness, courage, and determination. Hours passed in tense silence. Mara led Lyra through hidden paths and cliffs, always staying one step ahead. Draxion's ship hovered above, but he made no attempt to chase recklessly. He wasn't underestimating her. He was studying her, and that gave Mara an advantage. Finally, Mara reached a cave hidden behind a waterfall. It was dark, wet, but secure. She laid Lyra down and finally allowed herself a brief moment to breathe. "We're safe for now," she whispered. "Mama will always protect you." But safety was only temporary. Draxion's voice echoed faintly through a communicator he had left active. "Clever human. You survive where many would fail, but I will find another way. Both belong to me." Mara's eyes narrowed. He would return, she knew, but he didn't yet understand the full strength of human resilience. Humans didn't rely on fear. Humans relied on strategy, adaptability, and an unbreakable will to protect what mattered most. Days passed in careful hiding. Mara used the cave to store supplies, built small alarms using simple technology and natural resources, and even managed to create a hidden water filter from rocks and moss. Every day she taught Lyra small lessons, telling stories of brave humans and clever solutions. She wanted Lyra to grow up understanding that courage came not from power, but from intelligence and heart. One night, the sound of the waterfall and the forest creatures was interrupted by a faint vibration. Mara froze. It was Draxion's ship again, closer this time. She quickly packed supplies and prepared a diversion. Using small drones she had modified from old technology, she set up false signals, sending them away from her true location. Humans were resourceful. They could fight not with overwhelming force, but with cleverness. Draxion landed again, but this time Mara was ready. She observed from the shadows as he stepped forward. "I have to admit," he said, his voice carrying both curiosity and respect, "you are unlike any human I've faced. Most would surrender, but you fight with your mind." Mara stepped out from her hiding place, holding Lyra close. "We survive because we have to, because we protect those we love. You may have power, but humans have something you don't. We have courage, heart, and determination." Draxion studied her for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, he spoke calmly. Perhaps I have underestimated humans. Perhaps you are right. Both belong to me, but maybe not in the way I first thought." Mara didn't understand immediately, but she didn't lower her guard. She stayed vigilant, holding Lyra tightly. Draxion continued, "You have shown intelligence, bravery, and resourcefulness. I respect that. I will not take the child forcibly, yet. But remember, humans are clever, but patience can be just as powerful as courage." With that, Draxion retreated to his ship, leaving Mara and Lyra alone in the cave. Mara exhaled, relief and tension mixing in her chest. For now, they were safe. But she knew this was only a temporary reprieve. Draxion was powerful, patient, and relentless. Mara looked down at Lyra, who smiled in her sleep, unaware of the battle fought and the dangers avoided. "We will survive," Mara whispered, more to herself than anyone else. "We always do. And one day, we might even turn the tables." That night, Mara lay beside Lyra in the cave, listening to the waterfall in the forest. She thought about the vast galaxy, the dangers and the challenges ahead. But she also thought about the strength humans had, the cleverness, the courage, and the determination. Humans could face any odds. Humans could protect what mattered most. Above the cave, the stars shone brightly. Mara looked at them, a quiet smile on her lips. "One day," she whispered, "we will show them that humans are not to be underestimated. Not even by the likes of Draxion." And with that hope burning inside her, Mara drifted into a light sleep, ready to face whatever came next. Knowing that she and Lyra had already proven the greatest truth. Humans could endure, outthink and survive against even the deadliest foes.